Welcome to Rider Nation Station, presented by American Manufacturing Solutions, your total logistics partner, investing in Rider Nation Station and St. Mary's, Ohio, and to our other fine sponsors. The year is 1993 and it's March Madness time. Not for the NC2A tournament, but for Rider Nation, a town known as a football town due to its dedicated players who bought into a program developed and maintained by a man and his assistants, who was known in this town and all around the state by one name, Skip. Football was king, and football demonstrated it was king by just winning its second state championship of the 90s. Well, there was another man at MHS who was developing a program of his own, and he was known to those around the basketball world by two initials, JJ. Coach Johnides, the coach with the most Roghrider boys basketball wins, 108 to be exact, and has the most wins by a lot. And he also has the longest tenure, 11 seasons, arrived to St. Mary's in 1987, and in a short half a dozen years, he and his team was playing in front of a packed and raucous crowd of 13,276 at St. John's Arena, playing in the Division II state semifinal game. Who would have thunk it? If you rewind back to the fabulous 50s and you were a Roghrider basketball fan, you would have expected an MHS team to make it to the state in due time, as the 56 team had just advanced to the regionals. If you were a basketball fan post-mid-60s through the 90s, you would have said, when pigs fly. I remember speaking with the venerated educator and local historian Buzz Howard a few years back about Roghrider basketball. He conveyed to me when he was a kid watching basketball in the 50s, he believed this was a basketball town, a dynasty in the WBL. But things quickly changed his perspective as the 60s progressed. A major drought ensued on Roghrider basketball. There were 8 coaching changes leading up to the hiring of Coach Johnides. So how did the 92-93 boys basketball team make the unimaginable trip to Columbus? Well, let's hear it straight from Coach Johnides, our second Rider Nation Station vodcast guest. JJ, thanks for being here with us tonight, and it's something I'm looking forward to talking about this 92-93 dream season. But before we get there, JJ, let's talk about how you got here. You were coaching at Shawnee, an intra-league school, and how did you hear about the job, and how did you end up deciding to take it?
Well, I had decided to get out of coaching, Doug, to be honest with you, and was taking a sales position in Louisville, Kentucky. And Dan Griffin and Steve Moore kept calling my AD at Shawnee, Joe Allen, and trying to talk Joe into coming down to, convincing me to come down to talk. And after about a month of persuasion, I did, and kind of fell in love with the people at St. Mary's and thought it was a situation where we might be able to have some success. It was going to take some time and hard work, but that's the story. Kind of strange going from one league school to the other.
Yeah. I think I remember my sophomore year, we hosted Shawnee, and I'm warming up for the JV game, and you pulled me aside and you said, you still don't have breakaway rims? Things were a little different for St. Mary's in the basketball until you got there, but you made some abrupt changes in how we thought and how we did things, and obviously it led us to some good things.
Well, we had good administration, and they backed the notion that if you want kids to buy into basketball, you have to improve your facilities. So, we got glass boards on the side, we got new lighting in the gyms, we got the locker rooms remodeled, little things to let kids know that this sport is important.
And it was an exciting time because it was drastic change from what we had always known before. Well, let's talk about that first year that you're here, JJ, because you had a team that was strong, athletic, deep, and you start out of the gate 6-0. But then...
Yep. 6-0, averaging 62 points a game, giving up 39. And then Troy Crouch got hurt. And I'll tell you right now, Doug, and I'm not making anything up here. I believe if Troy was healthy, I think that team would have had a great season. I think Troy Crouch would have been first team All-Ohio. I think he possibly could have been the player of the year in the state of Ohio. He was that good.
Mm-hmm. He was a phenomenal player, and he did make it back toward the end of the season, but not near 100% at all. And that team ended up maybe 11-10, somewhere in there. And, still above 500, but
it was a tough break because that team had all the it had all the pieces to a good team. You had a strong starting five with good length. You had 2 quick guards, and you had a couple guys coming off the bench who could give you really good minutes. And when he went down, it changed everything, and we never quite rebounded.
So we're going to advance from that 87-88 team to the 91-92 team. And that's probably when you had your first team that had the most wins for your career. I think you were 16-7, and you won a sectional title, and you made it to the district finals. But there was one exciting game in that run before you got to district finals with Napoleon.
Triple overtime?
The triple overtime game. I can't imagine coaching or playing in a triple overtime game in the tournament.
Well, Napoleon had great length, and so did we. And Kinghorn Center to High Northern was sold out, and what a whale of a ball game. Walt Behrman, their coach, and I were pretty good friends, and I know we were both exhausted after the game, as were the kids, but triple overtime, and that sent us to the district finals against a very good Van Wert team.
And that one didn't end up on the positive side for St. Mary's. But how did the end of that season lead you into the 92-93 season? You know, what were your thoughts? You lost Gary Hamburg, Timmy Gasson, Greg Walder. So you had some voids to fill. But, what were you thinking from the end of that season going into the next season?
Well, we're going to have Ying coming back. We were going to have Ellie coming back. Then you got to add in some JVs like Tony Hirschfeld, Jeff Kogi, Luke Kleinance. Matt Finke's going to be back. You got a solid cast, and they worked hard during the summer. And, things fell out of the gate for us pretty good. That team, a lot of people don't realize, played their first game with either 4 or 5 practices. No scrimmages, because football went and won the state. I mean, we were running way behind.
Right.
And so we never really played what I would say good basketball until the middle of January. We relied on our physicality and defense and rebounding to beat people. But, not much of a preseason for that team.
And as you said, that was a result of winning a state championship for the second time. And that always puts a basketball coach behind. And
right.
You can't scrimmage because everybody else is
right.
in regular season by that point in time. And so you start behind the 8 ball, but things work out just fine.
But on the other side, you've got kids that are used to big game experience, and they've had they played in front of big crowds, and so when we got them, when they had success, and the crowds on the road and at home were huge, didn't faze our guys at all.
Awesome. So Al Michaels made that last-minute call in the 1980 Olympic game, United States versus the Soviet Union, of do you believe in miracles? Yes. I don't think this season was a miracle season. You had a lot of ingredients in this team that you deserve to be where you were. What were those ingredients that you had?
Well, this team, they were very unselfish, Doug. They a lot of them sacrificed their personal talents for the betterment of the team. They got along well. The chemistry was good. They were hardworking. They took tremendous pride in the defensive end of the floor. There's no mistake. I said it often. We were at times a very ugly offensive basketball team. But the one consistent with this team was defense and rebounding, and they clobbered people. And people, had a tough time running their sets against our defense. We had good length and good quickness. Good coachable kids. We had athletes, and athletes win you games.
Athletes do win you games, especially when there's a team chemistry that's involved as well. And
right.
I think that you really had a lot of guys who got along with each other,
right.
liked to be around each other, and knew each other.
Knew each other very well. And, a lot of them had big game experience the prior year with us, and going to the district finals against a very good Van Wert team and coming really close to pulling off the upset. I think it really gave them a burning desire to get back.
Yep. Definitely so. So, obviously, you don't do this alone.
No.
You've got assistant coaches that, and you mentioned the support of the administration when you came here. And So who were some of the coaches that helped you? And then also, this is watching game tape on some software program that everybody uploads like they do today. So how did you do the scouting, especially during the tournament run?
Well, during the tournament run, I had friends from all over the state out scouting. One of them was Jimmy Arnson down in Portsmouth, Ohio. He was scouting. I had a bunch of high school buddies that are coaches in Northeast Ohio that scouted that district for us. But as far as on staff, Brian Carrick was my longtime assistant at Shawnee, and he drove every day from Elida. He was a math teacher at Elida. He drove down there every day to be my varsity assistant. Bobby Britton had just graduated from Ohio Northern a few years before, and he was our JV coach, and that year left to become a head coach, so he missed out on it. But Michael J. came in, and he's still at St. Mary's, and he was our JV coach, varsity assistant, did a great job. You got to have guys on your staff that are willing to do what you want to do to establish a program. So we had a stepladder system where our 7th graders were taught the same terminology, the 8th grade the same terminology, and we added more at the 8th grade as far as drills. 9th grade, same terminology, add more drills. 10th grade, JV level, the same thing. So you got to have all your coaches on the same page. And again, not only the coaches, but Dan Griffin is the principal, Steve Moore is the AD, and Dr. Paul Blaine is the superintendent. We're tremendously supportive.
Awesome, and that's what it takes, a bunch of people to support you in order for you to be able to do your job as the head coach. So that's part of the recipe why it's not a miracle that it was intended to be, because you surrounded yourself with good people.
Actually, Doug, I'd interject here. This team finished 21-6. This team lost 3 games by a point. And I will tell you that 2 of them still haunt me because you go to Greenville, and Greenville shoots 52 foul shots, and we shoot 17. And we get beat by a point. And it was a good Greenville team. And we did not play our A game, but realistically beat them in every category except for the scoreboard. And then we were at Lima Bath, and there was a last-second call that still to this day I can see. And I really believe this team's record should have been a little better.
Yeah. So was there a game that was a turning point during the regular season when, you got the slow start, here's a game, either win or lose, that, okay, things are turning around for us and we're really going to make things happen?
Believe it or not, it was a non-league game on a Saturday night in Fostoria. We had lost to Salina, who was very good and won the league by 10. That was our first loss. And then we came back-to-back with 1-point losses to Bath and Defiance. And the next night after the Defiance game, we traveled to Fostoria, and our team was down, our coaches were down. And we had a nice talk in the locker room while the JVs were playing in the second half. And I said, we got to relax and play our game. Let's get out and have some fun. And we beat a pretty good Fostoria team by 19 points. And from then on, things started to click.
And defense was the mainstay for a Coach Johnides team, and you often referred to your style of basketball as blue-collar basketball. What do you mean by that?
Well, if you take a look at the landscape of St. Mary's and what St. Mary's is known for, what word pops into everybody's mind? Football, and rightfully so. So if you're going to play basketball with big, strong, physical kids, I think number one, you've got to do a great job on the glass, and number two, you've got to defend at an excellent level, because I don't think you're often going to have the best scorers, the best shooters, because that takes a lot of time. Mm-hmm. And so, we were fortunate to have some good scorers in our time here. We were much more fortunate to have physical kids that could pound the glass, took pride in defense, and that's pretty much where we put our hat at.
Not afraid to scrap, get after loose balls, and you win every position.
You better scrap or you're going to be on the bench.
Yep.
That's blue-collar basketball, and that's the way we played. And our kids responded to that, and they kind of played with a little chip on their shoulder.
So let's talk about some of the favorite memories of the tournament run up through regionals. And we'll talk about the state semifinal game in a bit.
Well, in the sectional, Doug, it's always tough. Some people don't understand. You got to play teams you've already played,
yep.
And it's primarily a WBL sectional. So we had to beat Shawnee first to get to the finals. Our Friday night game at Lima Senior was snowed out, got postponed till 1 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, which put us a day behind in preparation for districts if you are fortunate enough to win. and we beat a pretty good Van Wert team 73-59, I believe it was. And we knew then we were going to be playing Wauseon at Ohio Northern. And it was really a foregone conclusion by everybody in the state that Wauseon was state-bound. They were undefeated at 22-0. They were averaging 82 points a game and giving up 51. And they were everybody's favorite. We had plenty of tape on them. Fortunately, I had some buddies up in that area that were more than happy to give us tapes on Wauseon because they felt like Wauseon had ran the score up on too many people. So I had 3 tapes. Coach Carrick had 3 tapes. Coach Jay had 3 tapes. We all went home, broke them all down separately, got together the next day, and formulated our game plan. And we felt like we matched up with Wauseon pretty well. In fact, we felt like they didn't match up with us very well because of our physical nature. No question they were going to try to spread the floor and use their quickness, and they had a tremendous guard in Corey Griggs. He was all-state in 3 sports. They had a couple nice bigs inside. You know, they were 22-0 for a reason. I remember pulling in the bus, and it was a Wednesday night game. We played the first game. And the people were lined up at Kinghorn Center so far out, and it was cold and kind of snowy, and they all had red on. And they started booing when they saw the St. Mary's bus, and we could hear from inside. And those people in Wauseon had already booked hotel rooms in Columbus, and they will all tell you they were for sure going to Columbus. And as our bus made the turn to the other side of Kinghorn to our entrance where our locker room was, there was the St. Mary's contingent. And the blue and gold were out that night, so 35, 40 minutes before the game, the place was sold out. And long story short, when we took the starters out with 2.5 minutes to go, we were up by 21. And
wow.
Very, very special night. Mike Elston had a tremendous game. Ying had a tremendous game. All our guys played really well. And their coach was Kenny Burgeye, a well-known name in this area. Played for Bob Arnson at Delva St. John's, was all-state, played at Findlay College. We were very good friends. We worked at Delphus Camp together for probably 18 years. And he shook my hand and congratulated me after the game, and he said, I got to toughen my schedule up. We can't compete with you WBL guys. You're too physical. And he did. He toughened it up. And so, 3 days later, we're playing Napoleon in the district finals, and they had great length, 2 6'6", a 6'5", a 6'4", and a tremendous 6'2" guard. The last name was Weichi. And we felt the key to beating them was Weichi. And we hung in there and beat Napoleon by 6, I believe, for a chance to go to the regionals.
And you made it to the regionals, and the game that really sticks in my mind at the University of Toledo, big venue, good crowd, was against Nordonia. And I remember the quick little guard that they had that I believe Luke Kleinhens probably got the assignment, shut him down.
Well, it was Nordonia was good. We were fortunate to beat Bay Village in the semis. They were really good. And to advance, the team up there that was supposed to win it, Doug, was Belleville. They were 20-2, I believe, or 22-2. Whereas we had 5 losses, Bay had 4 losses, and Nordonia had 5 losses. So we ended up winning. Nordonia upsets Belleville, and we play them on Saturday afternoon. They got a great guard. He was really quick. He could do a lot of things, and they had good size, 6'5", 6'4", and 6'5" in the post. We were up 21-15 at half, and in the third quarter, Fernandez got hot and hit 3 in a row, and we called timeout, and we went to our defense, crossed hands, which means a diamond and 1. Luke Kleinhans was all over Fernandez, and then we played a diamond zone. And after that run, after that change, they scored 6 points the rest of the game. So the defensive adjustment, Luke Kleinhans, and then Matt Finke rotated on him too. Our guys just really, really toughened up, and it was a nice 10-point win, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, St. Mary's Roughriders are heading to Columbus. And we're going to talk about that after we take this break to pay attention to our sponsors.
This segment of tonight's broadcast has been brought to you by Minster Bank, helping people achieve financial success in support of the Rider Nation and the St. Mary's community. The Evening Leader, chronicling the history of St. Mary's for over 100 years. And like a good neighbor, Lori Yelton, your local State Farm agent, is there.
All right, thank you to those sponsors, and now we've got This Day in History. Please stop and see those fine folks that are sponsoring This Day in History. Tell them thanks for supporting Rider Nation Station. This Day in History, April 9th, 1993. The Auglaize County Commissioners approve a tax abatement for Omni. The Evening Leader states Omni is to construct a 10,000 square foot addition, 8 new jobs with a total construction of $505,000. Also in the news, on average, Ohio gas cheaper. Holiday travelers will find fuel in Ohio for an average of $1.06 compared to the national average of $1.11. More paving set. County engineer to repave 40 miles of county roadway at a cost of $781,000. The Platt Deutsch Group meets. Ed Broyles will speak to the group on how the Civil War affected this area. And finally, this day in history, St. Mary's graduates perform well for the University of Toledo track team. Joe Goodorf comprises 1/4 of the mile relay team that finished 4th at the Findlay Invitational. Elaine Vogel was 3rd in the high jump and took 5th in the triple jump and 100-meter hurdles. This Day in History is brought to you by Laura Yelton State Farm, Minster Bank, and the Evening Leader. You remembered all those, didn't you, JJ?
I did.
All right, we're going to Columbus. What was it like? The emotion, the elation. You've just beat Nordonia. You're traveling back from University of Toledo. What's going on?
Well, it's tough because Ellie made a great pass to Kogue in the last couple minutes. Kogue converted. We got a stop at the other end. Ellie made another great pass to Kogue. Kogue knocks it in, and then I know, we're looking at 30 seconds, 25. I know we're going, and it was like really surreal because every coach's dream is to get to at that time St. John, and here we are. We're going to have the opportunity to do it, and our guys were really tickled, and they worked hard for it, and our coaches were tickled, and it was a day that I'll never forget. And what I do remember is coming down this street right here in the school bus when we got out of Toledo and back to Auglaize County.
So on Spring Street.
How everybody in Spring Street was outside, and it was a tremendous welcome home celebration. And then we get the realization that on Thursday morning at 11 o'clock we're going to be taking on Samaki Walker, the 6'9", 6'10" center out of Whitehall Yearling. So we had to go to work, and that's what we did.
So Samaki, you find out that you're playing him. He's a blue chipper. He's being recruited by all the big schools, and that's not going to be an easy task. You're big for a St. Mary's team, but how do you compete against his height and his athleticism? Who did you bring in to simulate Samaki Walker during those couple of days of practice?
Well, we were fortunate. Right down the road was a young man that was a heck of a player by the name of Evan Eschmeyer at New Knoxville, and he went to Northwestern and ultimately the NBA. And Evan was kind enough to come in. We won on Saturday. Steve Moore and I had to be in Columbus for the big meeting for the state tournament on Sunday morning at, I think, 10 or 11. Came back from Columbus. We had our banquet out at the Legion on 703. And we had already started preparing, breaking down tape. My assistants had. And so Monday was a light day. We walked through the scouting report. We did some foul shooting, et cetera, et cetera. Tuesday, Wednesday, we brought Evan Eschmeyer in and let him assimilate Samaki Walker. Obviously more Tuesday than Wednesday because Wednesday was going to have to be a light day. And then Thursday, we loaded up the buses and headed out of town with a tremendous following of St. Mary's people out on the streets, and quite an experience. But we thank Evan Eschmeyer for his help, and it did help us, believe me.
Yeah, it's not every day that you've got a future NBA or just 5 miles down the road that can help you out in a situation like that. You're the only St. Mary's boys basketball coach that can answer this question. What's it like to take a team to St. John Arena?
Well, it's quite a wild ride. I mean, especially because of the guys that I was able to go with. They were so coachable. You talk about our starting five of Jeff Raymond and Luke Kleinance and Mike Elston and Greg Yingling and Tony Hirschfeld. But then you bring off the bench Matt Finke, and what an addition Fink was. And then Kevin Burgess. and then Jeff Koge. So we went 8 deep, and those guys were they were tight and they were easy to coach. And again, they set aside their own egos for the betterment of the team, and that was I was really happy for them to experience, because it is quite an experience. And I don't know that I could ever do it full justice what it was like for me, just getting out of the bus and walking into St. John, through the pass gate, into the locker rooms, going out for pregame, and your entire student body is already full, and it's loud, and you can see St. John's beginning to fill up. And Thursday morning at 11 o'clock is a tough one. But Samaki Walker was a big draw.
It was a draw.
But so were the St. Mary's Rough-Riders, because it was known throughout the state that our record was a little deceiving, that we were an athletic team that could pound you on the boards. And there was a lot of people in close to 13,000. There was a lot of those people rooting for us, and it was really neat.
And deceiving records, it makes me think that another close team to us, the Coldwater Cavaliers, made it to St. John that same year.
Yep.
And they had a regular season record of 4-16.
4-16, right. Jim DeCamp's team was there, and so was LCC that year. We had a lot of Northwest Ohio representation.
You want to peak at the right time, and Coach Niekamp definitely had his 4-16 team.
He did.
Peak at the right time. Were you able to control your emotion? Did you have to hide it?
I hid it. I tell you what, we had a really nice hotel, and I wish I could remember the name of it, right off 270, and the night before, and I had a room by myself, and I don't think I slept at all. It was, your game planning in your head, your what if, and to be honest with you, this really sounds stupid. My biggest fear was, you're used to being introduced as a coach after the starting lineup. But at St. John Arena, you got to walk to midcourt and shake hands with the other coach. And I was just hoping I didn't trip, to be honest with you. That was my biggest fear. I didn't sleep. We went out for team breakfast, and we had a really good meeting the night before in the hotel after our team meal. We had a really good meeting, broke down some tape, had a nice meeting room, and really had, I thought, a really solid game plan. I think our guys were ready. Had a couple guest speakers come in and do a really good job, and then I kind of finished it off, and I was pretty amped by then. But it was something that, obviously 26 years ago, I'll never forget. I can remember so many of the small details of each tournament game, the sectional, the district, the regional, and then getting to state. It was a great experience, and I'm glad our guys got to enjoy it.
So, tip-off. I'm just going to let you kind of talk about what you recall from the game at St. John Arena.
The game at St. John Arena, we had a disadvantage because he was such a tremendous shot blocker, and I think our first 4 shots he blocked. We were down 6 quick, and then cut it to 2, and I think we were down 6 or 8 at halftime, and at one point in the third quarter we were down 14, and it looked like they might turn out the lights on us, but we cut it to 10 at the end of the 3, and then our guys caught fire. They got up 12, and then we hit 3 in a row. Cut it to 6, got a turnover, cut it to 4, forced another turnover. We're coming down 3-on-2 to cut the lead to 2, and we didn't convert, and then they began to spread the floor and milk the clock. We had to foul, and they didn't miss any foul shots, and we never scored again. So 52-38, it's a deceiving score, but it is what it is. Our guys put up much better fight than what that score would indicate.
And it was one hell of a ride for St. Mary's basketball, and the outcome wasn't, obviously what you're after, but you made it to Columbus, which is every coach's dream, but that pinnacle above is to win it all, and fell short. But the first time ever in Rough Rider history that a team made it there. So there you go, folks. A first-hand account of what it was like for the boys of 92-93 to make the first and only appearance in a state semifinal basketball game. What a run it was, and thanks to all the players, coaches, and Benny.
And Benny, yep.
For making it happen. We're going to take a short sponsorship break and return with Coach Johnides to participate in Rider Nation Station's Word Association activity.
This segment of Rider Nation Station has been brought to you by Albert Sporting Goods at 121 West Spring Street, serving the St. Mary's community since 1980. Plus One Professionals Real Estate, selling St. Mary's from the corner of Spring and Chestnut since 1982.
Alrighty, thank you to our fine sponsors for bringing Rider Nation Station, Word Association, Plus One Professionals, and Albert Sporting Goods. Please stop in to see these fine folks and stay local the best you can. Tell them thanks for supporting Rider Nation Station. So Coach Johnides, I'm going to pop on the screen here in a second. Something associated with St. Mary's, and I want you to come up with the first thing you think of. And if you have nothing, you just say pass.
Okay.
So here we go. The Knotty Pine.
Sam.
And I think a lot of people watching will know what you mean with Sam. McBroom Gymnasium.
Reserve seats.
Skip.
Good guy. Really good guy.
And last but not least, the Inlet.
Fat worm.
So thanks for participating in Rider Nation Station Word Association. And again, thank you to our fine sponsors for bringing the Word Association, Plus One Professionals, and Albert Sporting Goods. Interactive correspondence. We actually do have interactive correspondence for Coach Johnides. It comes from a question by Tom Minker for Coach Johnides. In the state semifinal game against Whitehall, did you ever consider using youngster Jason Youngs off the bench to utilize his 5 fouls against Samaki Walker? It appeared Samaki didn't like the physicality of the game.
I never considered it. It's a good thought, though. And I think you're correct. I don't think Samaki liked the physical style. But at that time, Jason turned out to be a really good player for us. At that time, he wasn't quite ready. And we went with our normal rotation. But that's a good question.
All righty. Thanks to Tom. And with all of our future vodcasts, make certain that you put a comment in the comment section and we will utilize them. There's one more contribution of our interactive correspondence. I reached out to one of your star players to get some thoughts of the season and playing for you. So here's what Greg Yingling had to say. That was a great time and one of the most tight-knit teams I had ever been a part of. We did a lot of things together as a team off the court to build unity. We always would go to Pizza Hut on the Thursday night before a game to eat, then do something goofy like go to Kmart and just sit in a lawn chair and outdoor patio furniture area, just hanging out for an hour or two, talking and goofing around. We would hang out in the locker room or shower for an hour after practice just so we could all still hang out and be around each other. I think that was one of the key components to our team that made us successful. It created chemistry amongst us. I remember one specific time at the start of a game, I believe it was Shawnee. The lineup for an opening jump ball left Mike Elston with a breakaway lane to the hoop as long as I could tip it far enough to get him a lead. Just a simple eye contact with an eye movement toward the hoop, he understood exactly what the plan was. I got the tip over Mike's head toward our hoop. Mike turned and ran toward the ball and hoop, took a few dribbles, and opened the game with a breakaway dunk. Now, JJ, this was something uncharacteristic of St. Mary's teams. We weren't quite Phi Slamma Jamma, but this team dunked the ball.
Oh, this team dunked. Well, I think Ying had over 20 by himself. Because the 1-2-2 three-quarter court press we used, Ying was the point man, and he got a lot of deflections. He had a lot of dunks.
He had a wingspan on top there, yep. Ying continues on. These type of things were the intangibles of our team that were a big part of our success. We were probably one of the most loose teams JJ may have ever coached because we loved to be together, and you pair that with the overall athletic ability and talent the team had, it was a recipe for fun and success. We took a lot of pride in our defense and getting the crowd into it with some dunks as we had several people on the team that could dunk. It was exciting to know that 2 years earlier on the team, the gym would be half empty, and we had eventually turned that gym into a sold-out standing room only event for the school. We had a tremendous amount of talent on the team, but there was never any ego issues, and someone would typically step up when needed to. It was a total team effort. Several individuals could have averaged 20-plus points a night, for the season, but we all shared the spotlight and are together as a unit no matter whose time it was to step up. And you echoed that sentiment earlier in the conversation. Talking about the tournament run, Ying says, the run for the tournament was especially exciting as we had some success the year before, but fell a little short in the districts. Once we got through sectionals and played a tough Napoleon squad, as well as taking down the number 1 or 2 team in the state Wauseon by 20 some, I think the team kind of realized that we just stuck it to a highly ranked team and we have the capability to do something special. We always had confidence in our ability, but getting a chance to play a significant ranked team fired us up and proved it and performed in a fashion that left us with little doubt who the better team was, as an underdog role really provided the momentum for us to advance to the regionals. Getting a chance to play in a big arena such as the University of Toledo was exciting to us. We were confident in ourselves and knew that our defense was the reason we were so far in the tourney. We got through Bay Village, played Nordonia in the final. Knowing that we got a chance to play again on Saturday was with a chance ahead to go to Columbus if we won. See if you remember this. Matt Finke and I were both sick on Saturday. I can remember coming off the court at halftime, having to stop at half court to dry heave several times and vomit.
Yep. I remember both of them being sick.
We got through Nordonia at the end of the game and seeing the St. Mary's crowd erupt, and I'll never forget this. Coach JJ cutting the net down, probably the first time he ever hung on the rim.
Yeah.
Cutting the net down and knowing we were headed to play at Ohio State in the state tournament is a memory that Ying will relive in his head forever and ever. We had accomplished our team goals to get to state. I think that may have been a downfall to us, though, as we set the goal too low of getting to state instead of winning state. I will also never forget the feeling of running out onto the floor in St. John's Arena, looking up the scoreboard, hanging down with 12,000 some people watching, thinking that we made it, and the adrenaline rush was just pumping through. The game didn't pan out for us, as I remember. Mike got into foul trouble early with some questionable calls, and we got down by double digits. I remember us making a run in the fourth quarter. We cut it down to 4 and had a huge momentum swing on our side. We called a play Toledo to isolate me on the block. We got the ball into me, and I missed a gimme point-blank shot. Hirsch gets the rebound on the other side of the rim, and he missed a stick back as well. Kind of stopped the momentum, and I think the possession was the moment we had to convert to win. That's unfortunately a moment I will never forget of the lost opportunity of what could have been. I think there was some comfort in us all knowing that we had just played against a supreme talent in Samaki Walker, and he went on to play in the NBA for several years. Finally, he comments about playing for JJ. That year was a blast for most part because he let us be us by allowing us to open up the offense more, have the opportunity to get the ball out and run and create a little excitement in the team. We were always looking to create a dunk somehow. He allowed our personality as a team to be exposed, even though sometimes he didn't understand how we could be so loose and at times we needed to knuckle up and get serious. I know for me, I still have a relationship with Coach. Enjoy talking to him when we get a chance, as well as everyone on the team. To know that we helped him and he helped us achieve a childhood dream and goal to play in the big dance is an incredibly special feeling that we have impacted each other's life in a monumental way. That's something that will never be lost or forgotten. We were blessed to have the coaching staff and nucleus of individuals on that team that we did, as there has been a lot of success athletically and personally later on in life to come from the Roghrider basketball team of 1992-1993. Greg Yingling. Thanks, Ying, for sending that in and giving us a nice little overview of what it was like playing for JJ. Well, we have come to the end of our show. It's our hope at Rider Nation Station this podcast did entertain, educate, enlighten, and elevate your perspective about St. Mary's, Ohio. We hope a story has been told of that augments the development of relationships, old and new, to promote growth for all who do, did, and will call St. Mary's, Ohio home. If you're sitting there amazed by what you just saw and asking yourself, how can I help to keep Rider Nation Station thriving? We have 4 simple suggestions. Share the Rider Nation Station YouTube channel or Facebook page with your friends. Subscribe, hit like, and share. Submit show ideas to us in comments section or email us at ridernationstation@gmail.com. Support our sponsors with business or kind words, or donate to Rider Nation Station. Again, I want to thank Coach Johnides for his time and sharing his stories with us. What a great walk down memory lane, and hopefully soon MHS can get its second team to Columbus. Next Tuesday, we will be talking with John Andreoni, reminiscing about growing up in downtown St. Mary's. I hope you think positively about our town, the town we did not inherit from our ancestors, but the town we borrowed from our grandchildren. Peace to you, my fellow St. Marians, always and always, and thanks again, Coach Johnides, for being here.
This episode of Rider Nation Station has been sponsored by American Manufacturing Solutions, your total logistic partner, investing in the St. Mary's community. Albert Sporting Goods at 121 West Spring Street, serving the St. Mary's community since 1980. Plus One Professionals Real Estate, selling St. Mary's from the corner of Spring and Chestnut since 1982. Minster Bank, helping people achieve financial success and supporter of the Rider Nation and the St. Mary's community. The Evening Leader, chronicling the history of St. Mary's for over 100 years. Like a good neighbor, Laura Yelton, your local State Farm agent, is there.